Dustin Schutte joining me now. We're talking a little bit about the draft, Mr. Pacer. You got? Did you get? Are you happy?
Yeah, I think I was one of the few people that was on Pacers Twitter last night that wasn't having a complete meltdown over them selecting Chris Duarte out of Oregon. I know Moses Moody was there out of Arkansas. He seemed like the guy that a lot of people wanted. But I think when you look at the DNA and the makeup of this team and what Rick Carlisle brings, I think Duarte's a good fit. I think he brings shooting. He shot better than 40% from the three-point line. His season average was over 53% from the floor. He's a good defender. He was on the all Pac-12 all defensive team last season. He's got experience. He's 24 years old. I think that fits well with what this team has and the chemistry they have. I think he's a guy who can come in right away and make a splash. And I know maybe he's not maybe as athletic as Moody. Maybe he doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but I think in terms of a guy who can come in and immediately make an impact, I think he was probably the best decision that they had right there. And then you throw in another first-round pick with Isaiah Jackson out of Kentucky. I don't know as much about him, but I know he addresses that athleticism concern. I mean, he's a guy who averaged just under 3 blocks per game at Kentucky last season. So I liked what the Pacers did. A lot of people didn't. But let's wait and see what happens, because I think he can. You in this day and age with the NBA, you can never have too much shooting on the floor.
How did they get that second pick? Where'd that second pick come from?
Well, it came from the Lakers via Washington. So they were involved in a 3-team trade, and I believe that's the one that sends Aaron Holiday to Washington. So, last season they had Aaron and Justin Holiday on the team, but now they split up the brothers, and Aaron will be in Washington. Justin, as far as I know, still a member of the Pacers, and then obviously Drew was a member of the Bucks team that won the NBA championship. So they were able to acquire that. I like that they did something. They had some movement in this year's draft, and they were able to get 2 first-round picks and trade away future second-round picks. So I was happy with that. Get some guys in there that you think can make an impact and are going to fit Carlisle's scheme. But I'm excited about what they did last night, even though a lot of people aren't.
How does Holiday see? He's off to the Wizards now. So Isaiah Jackson, he's young. It gives you some youth. So look for the future. If he's a big dude, I mean, they got 2 nice pieces. Those are 2 nice pieces, different pieces for what they need.
And I think a lot of people too are not looking at this from the fact that let's say one of the things that is a concern is Doug McDermott might leave as a free agent. He might decide that he doesn't want to be in Indiana any longer and gets a better deal or whatever the case might be. Chris Duarte, he can plug in, I think, and kind of take over that role. I think he can be a spot up shooter. I think he's a guy who can get to the basket. So I think that's a good thing. Like he's not nearly as athletic and he's not as young. He doesn't have the same ceiling, but I like what he can do in terms of a plug and play situation. And then as you mentioned with Jackson, I mean, that just kind of fortifies what the Pacers can do and defensively he can back up Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. It provides them a big. He's not the biggest guy on the floor, but he's crazy athletic. You don't average 3 blocks a game at Kentucky if you're not pretty good defending the rim. So that gives them another rim protector. Rick Carlisle talked about that even in his introductory press conference in meeting with the media, talking about that you need to have that guy who can block shots, who can stand at the rim and protect it. And so I think that they really addressed some of the concerns that they had. If Doug McDermott leaves, they have another guy here in Duarte who can step in and kind of fill that role. And then you get more athletic, you get another shot blocker and another rim protector behind Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. And again, we don't know. This is just the draft. We might see these pieces traded. We might see some movement. We might see guys come in or go out in free agency. This is the fun time of year if you're an NBA fan, because you don't know what you're going to see one day to the next.
Yeah, and I know not everybody that listens to this show is just a gigantic NBA fan, but some of them are. And for those that are, that's who we're talking to, because we have a varied audience, but also the radio audience. But as you look across the Pacers roster now, they don't have a superstar.
No.
There are no super, and I still think that, and the best example is Milwaukee. Milwaukee has one superstar, but he's a superstar. And they just won an NBA title. Phoenix got there without a superstar, but Chris Paul has played enough alongside of superstars that it rubbed off on him that he had some superstar dust, I guess you'd say. The Pacers are still not to that level in my mind, which they're obviously very playoff ready and competitive, but not to the next level. The Lakers just added Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know how the hell that's going to work. Russell Westbrook, the guy that takes more shots than John Wilkes Booth. I mean, going to be with LeBron James now. I mean, how the hell is that going to work? I mean, you got a guy two guys who've never met a shot they didn't like.
Well, I was just going to say they're still playing with one basketball, right? So I don't know how that's going to work. We'll see. I mean, Russell Westbrook, he was great on those Thunder teams, and when he was the guy in Washington, when he was the guy on the Thunder, you're right. He still would average a triple double. I mean, but he's taken a lot of shots, and playing alongside a guy like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, maybe he is more of a distributor. Maybe he embraces that role a little bit more. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do. But in terms of the Pacers and not having a superstar, I agree. The thing that I like about the Pacers is they have a lot of really, really good players. I think they have a couple, I think Miles Turner could be an NBA All-Star. Domantas Sabonis is an NBA All-Star. You have some really, and then you have some nice complementary pieces around those two guys, and Malcolm Brogdon's coming on, and you just have some really good players there, but you don't have that one guy. You don't have a game changer. You don't have the guy who can take over a game. Victor Oladipo was that guy. Paul George was that guy. Obviously, you go back, Reggie Miller was that guy. You just don't have that, and I think that's.
Can any of these two guys become that guy?
I don't think so.
But people didn't think that about Donovan Mitchell either, probably.
That's a good point. I mean, a lot of people didn't think that about Donovan Mitchell. I don't know if people thought that about Devin Booker. I mean, you talk about the Suns. He's another guy who stepped up into – he's a rising superstar. He's not quite put him in that category just yet, but he's rising. So you never know.
But he was also a reason that they got to where they got to the NBA Finals.
Exactly. So you never truly know what they're capable of doing, and if they can fill that role. I don't think they're capable of doing that, but I think that they can be those good complementary pieces that you need. Like we talked about, the Bucks didn't have a super team. The Suns did not have a super team. The Atlanta Hawks did not have a super team. If the Pacers can get a voice, or if they can get somebody who's on that verge of becoming a superstar, maybe it is one of these guys, and a guy who can just take over the game. You can get him the ball the final 5 or 6 possessions, and he can just knock down shots or get to the rim or draw fouls, then I think they're going to be in really good shape. But that's kind of the one hurdle, the one obstacle they have to get over. And maybe Rick Carlisle, I mean, you go back to Rick Carlisle's championship in Dallas, Dirk Nowitzki, I guess you could classify him as a superstar, but he was also in the later years of his career. He was a guy who could knock down.
Once a superstar, always a superstar.
Because he was a guy that could knock down shots. He wasn't insanely athletic. He wasn't, he wasn't crazy athletic, but he was a guy who just knocked down shots. Could Duarte fill that role in the future? I think so. But it's Rick Carlisle caters his system around the pieces that he has. So that's why I'm really interested to see what he does with these new guys.